My girlfriend said, "So now the big man wants to know where I was." I replied, "Not anymore." Then I changed the locks, packed her clothes and candles into boxes, sat calmly with my coffee, and I just watched as she walked in wearing last night's dress and saw what I had done to our life. Welcome back to AF Tales. Today's story is about a boyfriend who checked the location app and saw his girlfriend at her ex's house until 4:00 a.m. So he changed the locks before she woke up. As you listen, ask yourself what you would do if trust in your relationship broke in one night. My girlfriend, Veronica, looked at me like I was the problem and said, "Oh wow, so now the big man wants to know where I was until 4:00 a.m. I stayed quiet. I just stared at her for a moment, then I said, calm and cold, "Not anymore." She didn't know it yet, but the locks had already been changed. I met Veronica 3 years ago at her rooftop party in downtown Austin. She had this loud, fearless laugh that made people turn their heads. I remember thinking she was magnetic, the kind of person who pulls a room toward her without trying. By month 2, we moved in together. Looking back, that was the first time I ignored my own pace just to keep up with hers. My sister Kate warned me over coffee one Sunday morning. She told me it was too fast, that it was a bad idea to build a life with someone you barely knew. I didn't listen. I was 28 and convinced love was supposed to feel urgent. The first year really was good. We cooked together after work. We took random road trips to San Antonio. We stayed up until 3 in the morning talking about nothing and everything. It felt easy. Then the second year came and the small cracks started showing. Veronica would go out with her college friends and come home around 2 in the morning. She'd smell like whiskey and cigarettes. I didn't mind her going out. I've never wanted to be that guy who tracks his partner's time like a manager. But if I asked a normal question like, "How was your night?" she'd get defensive. "You're not my father, Derek," she'd snap. And I would drop it, because the silence after an argument always felt worse than the argument itself. That's the trap, by the way. When you start avoiding small conversations because you're scared of the reaction, the relationship stops being safe. Last Thursday night, I woke up around 3:30 a.m. and reached across the bed. Empty, cold sheets. I checked my phone. No texts. No missed calls. Months earlier, Veronica insisted we turn on location sharing. She said it was for safety, because her friend once got stranded downtown. I agreed because it sounded reasonable, and because I didn't think I'd ever use it like this. I opened the app. Her little blue dot sat on Maple Drive. I knew Maple Drive. Her ex-boyfriend Connor lived there in a duplex near the university with a roommate. I stared at the screen in the dark, not blinking, just waiting for the dot to move. It didn't. I refreshed once. Still there. I refreshed again. Still there. It stayed there for 20 minutes, and then something strange happened. I didn't panic. I didn't rage. I didn't start texting her a paragraph at 3:50 in the morning. I just set the phone down, plugged it in, and went back to sleep. It was surprisingly easy. Because deep down, I think I'd been bracing for something like this for months. When your gut has been whispering for a long time, confirmation can feel almost calm. When I woke up at 7, I texted my landlord, Mr. Patel. I'd lived in that apartment for years and never missed rent. I told him I'd lost my keys and needed the locks changed immediately, and I'd pay double for same-day service. He replied within minutes and said he'd have someone there by noon. Then I called Kate. "Do you have any boxes?" I asked. She sounded half asleep. "What happened? I'll tell you later. Do you have boxes or not? Derek, it's 7:00 a.m. on a Friday. I know what time it is." She went quiet for a second, like she could hear something in my voice I wasn't saying out loud. "Yeah," she said. "I have boxes. How many do you need?" "As many as you can bring." Kate showed up about 40 minutes later. Her Subaru was packed with flattened cardboard and packing tape. She was still in her pajamas with a coat thrown over them. We didn't talk much at first. She just came inside and started helping. We boxed up Veronica's clothes from the closet. Her bathroom stuff that had taken over 2 full shelves. Her books that she never actually read. Her ridiculous collection of scented candles she kept buying but never burned. Room by room, we worked like a team that didn't need a meeting. After a while, Kate asked, "Do you want to tell me what happened?" I taped a box shut and said, "She spent the night at Connor's house." Kate stopped mid-motion. "Her ex Connor. That's the one." "You're sure?" I showed her the app, the location, the timestamp. Kate stared at the screen, then looked at me. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," I said. "I'm not." And I meant it. Not in a proud way, in a tired way. Sometimes the emotion doesn't come because you've already grieved what the relationship used to be. The locksmith arrived at 11:45 a.m. His name was Jimmy. He didn't ask questions. He just replaced the deadbolt and the handle lock like it was any other Friday job. By 12:30 p.m., we had 22 boxes stacked neatly in the living room, labeled in black marker. Kate stepped back and looked at it all. "You're really doing this?" "I really am." "Good," she said, and her voice was steady. "Do you want me to stay?" "No, I need to do this part alone." She nodded, then hugged me tight. "Call me after." "I will." Veronica came home around 2:00 p.m. She stumbled in wearing last night's black dress. Her eyeliner was smudged. Her heels were in her hand like she'd given up pretending the night had gone smoothly. She froze when she saw the boxes. "What the hell is this?" she said. I was sitting on the couch with a warm coffee like it was any normal afternoon. "Your stuff," I said. "Derek, what are you doing?" I looked at her. "Where were you last night?" Her face changed in real time. Confusion, then realization, then that defensive mask snapping into place. "I was at Lindsay's," she said. "We were having drinks and I crashed there because I didn't want to drive." "Try again." That's what I thought, but I didn't even need to say it. I pulled out my phone and opened the app, then turned the screen toward her. "You were at Connor's house until 4:00 a.m. For a second, all the color drained from her face. Then it rushed back, not as shame, but as anger. She laughed, sharp and bitter. "Oh wow," she said. "So now the big man wants to know where I was until 4:00 a.m. I set my phone down carefully, like I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing my hands shake. Then I said, "Not anymore." Her eyebrows pulled together. "What does that mean?" "It means I don't care where you were," I said. "I don't care why, I just need you to take your boxes and leave." "You're being insane," she snapped. "Nothing happened." "Veronica," I said, "I don't believe you." I paused, then added the part that mattered most. "And honestly, it doesn't even matter if you're telling the truth. I'm done." This is the part a lot of people miss. It's not always the act. Sometimes it's the lie that tells you who you're really with. She walked toward the door like she was about to storm out and come back later, like we always did. Like this was just another fight that would end with her ignoring the problem until I apologized for bringing it up. She shoved her key into the lock. It didn't turn. She tried again, harder. Nothing. She turned slowly and looked at me with real shock. "You changed the locks." "It's my apartment," I said. "My name is on the lease." "You can't just kick me out," she said, and her voice broke a little. "I can," I said. "You're not on the lease." "You never wanted to be, remember," she blinked. "You said it felt too permanent," I continued. "Well, congratulations." She stared at the boxes like they were something cruel. "Take your stuff," I said, "or I'll have it moved to the curb by tonight." Her eyes filled up. "Derek, please, let me explain." I shook my head. "I gave you a chance to explain, you lied." "I didn't sleep with him," she said quickly, like she'd rehearsed that line. "I didn't ask if you did," I said. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me. Maybe she didn't. I'd never been this cold with her before. I'd never shut the door without leaving it cracked. "So that's it," she whispered. 3 years and you're just throwing me out." "You spent the night at your ex's house and lied about it," I said. "Yeah, that's it." Then she started crying. Real tears, mascara running down her cheeks. "I made a mistake," she said. "I was drunk and confused and he was texting me about his dog dying and I went over to comfort him." I raised my hand. "Stop," she froze. "I don't want the story," I said. "I don't want excuses. I want you to call someone to help you move your boxes." There's a moment in breakups where you realize you're not arguing anymore. You're just ending it. And that silence feels brutal, but it's also the only honest thing left. With shaking hands, she called her friend Lindsay. I could hear Lindsay's voice through the speaker, confused at first, then quiet as she understood. Lindsay arrived 30 minutes later in yoga pants and a tank top. She took one look at the stacked boxes and didn't ask a single question. She just started carrying them out. Smart woman, Veronica kept trying to talk between trips to the car. "Can we at least talk about this next week when you've calmed down?" she asked. "No. You're being cruel, I'm being clear." "I love you," she said, and her voice got small. That one almost got me. Almost. I swallowed and said, "If that were true, you wouldn't have spent the night at Connor's." On Lindsay's last trip out, her arms full of the candle box, she paused and looked at me, not angry, just sad. "She really cares about you, you know," she said quietly. "Then she shouldn't have spent the night at Connor's," I answered. Lindsay nodded once, like she couldn't argue with that. Fair enough. When the door closed behind them, the apartment felt huge. I sat there for an hour staring at the wall where we used to have a photo of us from Cabo. I'd taken it down that morning, but the nail hole was still there. It's funny what stays behind, not the person, just the little marks that prove they were real. Kate called around 5. "How'd it go?" she asked. "She's gone." "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, and then I added, "Really?" Kate exhaled like she didn't fully believe me. "That's probably shock. It'll hit you later." "Maybe. You want to come over for dinner?" she asked. "Brian's making lasagna." "No," I said. "I think I need to just sit with this." "Call me if you change your mind," she said. "Anytime, Derek." "I know," I said. "Thanks." That weekend, Veronica texted me 47 times. I counted, not because it mattered, but because I had nothing else to do, and counting felt easier than feeling. The messages were all over the place. Apologies, then insults, then apologies again. "You never trusted me anyway." 5 texts later, "I should have known you'd overreact." Then, "Connor means nothing to me." Then, "Why are you doing this to me?" I responded once on Sunday night, "Please stop contacting me." She didn't stop. Monday morning, Connor called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Derek," he said, "man, I need to tell you something." "I don't want to hear it," I said. "Just listen for 1 second, he insisted. "Nothing happened. She showed up drunk around 100 a.m., crying about your relationship. She passed out on my couch. That's it. I didn't even know she was coming." I stared at the kitchen counter while he talked. Then I said, "Why didn't she just tell me that?" Silence. "Exactly," I said. "Because even if that's true, and I'm not saying I believe you, she knew how it looked. And she chose to lie instead of being honest." Connor sighed. "She's a mess right now, dude, like really bad." "Not my problem anymore," I said, and I hung up. Then I blocked his number. That same week, I ran into Veronica's mother at the grocery store. Patricia had always liked me. She used to say I was the first boyfriend who treated her daughter right. She came up while I was in the produce section, testing avocados like I had all the time in the world. She touched my arm gently. "Veronica told me what happened," she said. "I'm sorry, Derek." "Thank you," I said. "She's staying with me for now," Patricia continued. "I think she realizes she made a terrible mistake." I picked up another avocado and squeezed it lightly. "I hope she figures things out." Patricia hesitated. "Is there any chance you two might?" "No," I said. "I'm sorry, but no." She nodded, eyes sad behind her glasses. "You're a good man. I hope you know that." That almost broke me. Not because it fixed anything, but because hearing it from her made the whole thing feel real in a different way. 3 weeks later, I was at a bar downtown with coworkers celebrating the end of a big project, and I saw Veronica walk in with Connor. They weren't holding hands, but they were together, laughing about something. She saw me immediately. Her face went white. I turned back to my beer like I hadn't seen a thing. Of course she came over anyway. "Derek," she said, "this isn't what it looks like." I didn't turn around. "Veronica," I said, "you can do whatever you want. We're not together." "I just don't want you to think." "I don't think anything," I said. "I don't think about you at all." It was a lie, but it felt good to say. I heard her inhale sharply like it hit her in the chest. Connor appeared behind her, looking uncomfortable in a button-down that was too tight. "Come on, V," he said. "Let's just go." She stared at me for another moment. I could feel her eyes on the side of my face. Then she walked away. My coworker Jared watched the whole thing and whistled low. "That's her." "Yep," I said. "Dude," he muttered, "you dodged a bullet." "I know," I said. 2 months after the breakup, I was doing fine. Better than fine, actually. I started running in the mornings before work. I picked up my guitar again after 2 years of it collecting dust in the corner. I went on a few app dates that went nowhere, but none of them were disasters. The apartment felt like mine now, not ours. I rearranged the furniture, bought new sheets, hung different art. I stopped living around a missing person. Kate came over one Saturday with Thai food and a 6-pack. She looked around and nodded. "You seem good." "I am good," I said. "No regrets?" she asked. I thought about it while opening my beer. "Not even one," I said. Kate leaned back. "What do you think would have happened if you tried to work it out?" I didn't have to think long. "I'd still be wondering every time she went out," I said. "I'd still be checking that location app at 300 a.m. I looked at Kate and said the part that mattered. "That's not a relationship. That's a prison I'd be building for myself." Kate nodded slowly and stole a spring roll from my container. "You did the right thing." "I know," I said. "You sound sure," she said. "I'm sure," I told her. "For the first time in probably a year, I'm completely sure about something." The last time I heard about Veronica was 4 months after the breakup. A mutual friend named Daniel told me she and Connor had gotten serious and even moved in together. Then it imploded 2 months later when Connor caught her texting someone else late at night. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel like I'd won. I just felt far away from it, like hearing about characters in a show I used to watch but stopped caring about. That night, I deleted Veronica's number from my phone completely. I should have done it months earlier, but there was something final about it that I hadn't been ready for. That was the last thread. And when it was gone, I slept better than I had in years. No part of me waiting for a text. No part of me wondering if she'd knock on the door. No part of me checking dots on maps. Just quiet. And in that quiet, something that felt a lot like peace. The next morning, I made coffee and sat on my balcony watching the sunrise over the buildings. My phone stayed in my pocket, face down on the table. For the first time in a long time, I had nothing to check, no one to track, no one to wonder about. Just me, the morning, and a life that was completely my own again, and it felt right. Lesson 1: if someone gets defensive over normal questions, that's not privacy. That's avoidance, and it grows into bigger lies. Lesson 2: trust isn't just about what happened. It's about whether someone is honest when things look bad and the truth matters most. Lesson 3: moving too fast can hide problems because you don't have time to see patterns before you're already attached. Lesson 4: you don't need proof to leave. If the behavior breaks your peace and the honesty disappears, it's okay to walk away. Lesson 5: a relationship that turns you into a detective is not a relationship. It's a slow leak that drains your life. So what would you have done if you saw that location dot sitting at an ex's house until 400 a.m.? Would you have heard her out, or would you have ended it the same day and never looked back?